Hello and welcome back to the studio where we paint away the stress of everyday life here in Wales with myself, Clive. And I went on a little bike ride last summer when I was starting to keep fit, and I come across this wonderful church which we'll talk about as this video progresses. But what I'm going to do today, I've got a 30 by 40 centimetre canvas. For those people that working in Imperial, that's a 16 by 12. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a very light coat of, I don't know, what shall I put on? I got a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow ochre wash over this. And as I do that, let's watch a quick introduction and we'll have a look at the colours I've got on the palette today.
It's time to learn with our friend Clive. So grab your brush, have a great time. And don't forget to click subscribe.
Right, let's have a look at the palette. Today I've got some ultramarine blue. I'm going to answer a question in 1 second about paint, because you might be wondering, why is there such a big lump of blue there? I shall talk about that in 1 second. Let me just dry my palette off, because I've just used a bit of it for putting a tonal wash on. I've got some CADMIUM yellow, medium yellow there. I've got some yellow ochre, some burnt umber, some Mars black and some titanium white. I've got some of my medium mix there. As you know, if you follow me before, you know what that is. It's basically to stop the paint from underbinding. I've got a bit of flow improver and some retarder there as well in the pots. I'm just going to use a couple of small brushes to start with. Okay, so first question I'm asked is how do you decide what paints to use? Well, the first thing I do is I look at my reference photograph. As you can see, let me zoom one of these cameras out for you. There you go. I look at my reference photo and obviously try to pick the colors by eye which I'm going to use. Now when you're using a photograph such as this, you don't want to copy it exactly unless you're doing something photorealistic. I don't do photorealism. I just try and get an interpretation of what I see and trying to create a painting from that. So there's elements in this particular reference photograph which are normally down there, by the way. I've either got them on my iPad or I got them stuck to the wall, or I got several photographs all pinned to the wall there. Which you should be able to see. Let me see if I can. Let me just see if I can move this cam. No, I can't. But I got a wall there next to me, and this is normally covered in reference photographs. Anyway, so I'm just trying to get an impression of what I'm painting rather than an accurate painting, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I put a tonal wash on. The other thing is the amount of colours. Once you've decided what colours, how much of each colour do you put out? Well, you can put out as much as you want. I just happened to finish off a tube of paint there today. And what I'm going to do then when I finished the session is I scrape this paint up and put that back in the tubs. So that's an ultramarine blue. So I'd scrape that up and put that back in. So never waste any paint. Don't just discard it. It's too expensive. So I got a size 15 brush. I'm going to pick up a bit of white, just white with a little bit of flow improver, just white. And I'm just going to put some white in onto this sky like this. And then a little bit of medium mix. Just going to put some white in because I want this to be a lovely blue sky. I'm going to put some blue down there as well. Blue sky, Clive, you're painting white. Yes, I am. But I'm going to use a mist bottle today, because that'll stop the paint from drying, hopefully. And let's get a little bit of blue, a little bit of ultramarine blue now, and just lighten that, darken that sky up with a bit of blue. There we are. And I wanted to blend the paint onto the panel today, because that's not far off that colour. Actually, that's not far off that colour. There you go. So let's zoom back in. A little bit more blue over there. So we're going to have some trees over there. We're going to have some blue sky coming through. So I don't want to a completely dark area over there. I want a bit of blue coming through some trees there. I'm going to darken this top area up a little bit because it's always good to have a slightly darker top of the sky. Just gives that a little impression that of depth then. Just subtly done. And I'm just going to bring a bit of sky colour down there like that. Nice and smooth today. A bit more white. So you can see that if you wanted to mix paint directly onto your board or your canvas panel, whatever you decide to use, then you can. So there we go. Doesn't matter if it goes over your drawing or not. We build up acrylics in layers. So I've got a little bit of that yellowy type of glow coming through from the yellow ochre that I used on the sky there. So I'm just going to bring a bit of blue across there like that. I'm not worried there because that's going to be trees. Maybe a little bit of blue down there. Trying to keep the sky as close to the original layers as I can. I'm just going to put a bit of dark into the sky now. Blending that in. A little bit more ultramarine blue on my brush. Just bringing a bit of contrast into the sky. Just trying to build that nice summer sky that there was on the day. And it's mixing with the white that I've already put on. So it's starting to blend together. So I'm blending on there. If it gets a little bit dry, just a little squirt like that, but don't forget to get your brush back in and just merge that colour in like that. Yeah, I quite like that. Maybe just a little bit lighter there. So I just picked up a little bit more white on my brush. Just blending in a bit of white. And that's that lovely sky that we see in the summertime. Don't see much sky in the summertime in Wales. It's normally raining all the time, and it certainly has been raining over this last several weeks because we've had storm after storm here in Wales. Hence the reason I'm sitting in the studio today. Now that's starting to dry. As I'm pulling the brush across the paint, you'll feel it started to drag. Now stop. Straight away, stop. And either allow that to dry naturally or do what I do and get a hairdryer on that. Okay, concentrating on the sky. I'm just going to pick up a little number 8 short flat. There you go, number 8 short flat. I'm just picking up a bit of white, titanium white, and the smallest amount of blue just to darken that up. Maybe just a little touch of black. So that little touch of black makes a big difference. I want a grey, a blue grey. Because what I'm going to try and do now is just going to try and get some of those fluffy summery clouds that we see in the sky. And I'm just using the edge of the brush and I'm just scagging this through like this. It's like a mackerel. This is what they call a mackerel type of sky. Because that day it was quite a warm day. And they had this type of mackerel-y type of cloud formation in the sky. So just building up a little bit of sky and a bit of cloud coverage like this. Again, get a little bit more paint. Don't want to put a lot of paint on the brush. A little bit goes a long way, remember. A little bit goes a long way. Just get these little flecks of paint. It's like somebody has torn cotton wool in the sky like that and made it very, very thin and just blown it up into the sky like that. So imagine cotton wool balls that have been teased like this, and then put in your hand and blown up in the sky. That's what you're looking for. Yes, that's what you're looking for. That wispy type of, very, very subtle type of sky, which you'll see on some summer days. What we can do then is just pick up the edge of a couple of these, just like that. So we put our shadow colour in, and all we need to do now is just put the cover, a little bit of white, brighter white, just here and there, just to lift out. Maybe there's a couple of thicker cotton wool balls up there. There you go. Just the edge. Just the edge. Just the bright light. Just that brightness. Just to lift up a couple of these clouds to make them look really, 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 really wispy. There you go. God has been playing with the clouds today. He really has. Don't work too hard. Just let the brush work for you. Washy brushy brush. Wash the brush. So what I'm going to do now is get some yellow. Get a little bit of ultramarine blue over there. And a little bit of black. A nice dark colour. Get it dark. Nice dark colour. We'll leave that as that, I think. So what I want to do now is I want to paint in some dark green, maybe a little bit darker. I want it quite dark there. That's better. Maybe just a touch more. Let's go to the one side just to darken that up. If we're not satisfied with how dark it is, what we can do, we'll paint another layer on over it afterwards. But we'll just put it in for now. Because there's a lovely set of trees around there. So we'll put the little fine details in like this later on. But let's just block out the main part of this foliage like that. And this is what they call, as you've heard me say before, if you've painted with me before, you know this what stage this is. This is just called a block out stage. I'm not looking for perfection. I never do. If I wanted to take this on to another lesson, maybe I would concentrate a little bit more. But today it's all about just getting paint on the canvas. And some people just want to paint away the stress of everyday life with myself in Wales. Other people want to make a living from painting, and that's good. That is good. But I just like painting away the stress of everyday life. And I've got a lot of young Clive 5 artists now. I've got a lot of young Clive 5 artists that are following me and doing school projects and all these other wonderful things. And that makes me so happy to see that, you know, I'm inspiring the younger generation, which is good. And that's important to me. Because if there weren't any youngsters coming up, then the world would be quite a boring place, wouldn't it? the young generation is important. So I'm just going to put in some dark areas here for this tree, because there's a lovely big tree there. That's going to come down here. It's quite dark, so let's get a bit of black, let's get a bit of burnt umber, and let's just darken up this area a lot there, like that. And there's a little cross there. Now, I don't know what religion you are. If you don't believe in crosses and things like that, then don't put the cross in. You could still paint the building, and it would be really nice. Just concentrate on that. You just put a gravestone there if you wanted to, instead of putting a cross. It's entirely up to you. It's your painting. You do what you want. Doesn't have to be the same as that. Don't forget now. Make it up. Because I've altered this a little bit. Just make it up. Artistic license is a wonderful thing, because you can add or remove things as you see fit, really. There you go. Nice big area there. And a bit of burnt umber, a bit of yellow. As you walk down there, down there is a stile, what they call a stile. In fact, it's a break in a hedge, and with some steps on it, and you can climb over that and go into another field there. I'll play a little video for you if you want to and have a look at it. The full video is actually on my other channel, which is Clyde's Healthy Living and Mindset, and I go around on my bike in the summer and in the spring and try to find inspiration and look for local landmarks and stuff like that, which I do on occasion. I've been known to just pop along and a little picnic somewhere, and which is quite nice. So yes, have a little look at that video as I continue painting here. This is the back gate then. There's no stile down there. Now I know there's a grave here. I think it's to do with some sort of seafarer, marine type of thing. Not a marine as we know it, but you know, the old seafaring type. I'm sure it is. I'll see if I can find it. It's got to be around here somewhere. And I'm going to make my way back then. But I'm enjoying myself. Nice and relaxing here today. But this is really nice actually. There's a church there. Ah, here it is. Here it is. I knew there was a church here. A church. I knew there was a grave here with some sort of marine theme. There you go. (1863). That's a nice. That is a nice headstone, isn't it? I can't quite make out the words there. Oh, that was a nice, nice little walk around our church. I've been there for I don't know how many years, right? So I'm just building up. Just put in some block out. I've just put a path in place there. So I'm just putting some grass in over that side, because this side is all grass as well. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to work on this building. So what I need to do is find myself a little detail brush. There we go. Let's have a look. Which one can I use? There we are. I've got some detail brushes here. Now I want to think about painting this building in. The top of this looks like a rampart on a castle. So I'm not sure if this is a Norman church or not. I don't know. Some churches have got spires, others haven't. This is just a church without a spire, because it's trying to be a spire to be a big church. Been wanting to paint this for quite a while now. So let's add a little bit of white to the one side of that, because I want this just slightly lighter this side. Like as if maybe it's just catching a bit of light. Trying to think of perspective. Perspective is a line that goes away from there, which I haven't quite done. So I'm thinking and talking too much here. So let's just paint this in completely first. Maintaining my window. So what I'm going to do, because this process is going to take me a little while to get done, I'm just going to speed up the video a little bit, and I'll just talk to you as I do that, because I just want to concentrate on getting this building in, and this can take a little while. So you just take your time when you're doing this. You just take whatever time you need to get done, and it's important that we try and keep our lines as straight as possible, which is not always easy to do. Okay, so that was quite a long process, in fact. So you can see that I blocked out the church as best as possible. I put some really dark tones in there. I've also put some shadows in ready for the windows and things. But there's going to be something I'm going to be doing to that in just 1 second. But before I do that, I just want to block in now the main area there of grass. So again, what I'm going to do is just use a size 10 brush. I'm going to get some cadmium yellow and a little bit of Mars black. There you go. I'm just going to block in some dark colour there. I'm going to bring in a little bit of blue into this side. A little bit more blue, because I want this to have a bit of a blue tinge to it. I'm not worrying about gravestones and things like that at the moment, because we'll put them in at slightly later time. So I'm just going to darken that up, just get a small amount of Mars black just on my brush like this. Just want to darken this area up like that. Now maybe just bringing in a little bit of burnt umber just on the brush, just down to this area like that, just darkening this area up, just trying to get this blocking stage finished. There you go. Bring in a little bit of yellow ochre now, just to there, just to bring in a bit of light there. I think in that area, let's just bring a bit more light down to this area there, bringing that in. Doesn't look like much now, but trust me, when everything comes together, it'll look wonderful. Oh, you don't have to put gravestones in this. If you don't want to put gravestones, if it makes you feel a bit eerie, ooh, I don't want to sell a painting with the gravestones, just paint the church. You don't have to put gravestones in. I might just put a few little implications, you know, just maybe a little hint here and there, maybe of a gravestone or something. I haven't decided yet. I'm definitely going to put a cross in or something like that, because I like that cross there. But we've also got to think of something maybe just to draw the eye a little bit in. But the emphasis is going to be on the church. I'm not worried about focal points and stuff like that, because it's a painting of a church at the end of the day. And that's all I want to try and do, is get that church. So I might have to put something there just to throw the eye in a bit. But that's something we got to work on. There you go. I'm just going to darken that over there just a touch more. Let's get a little bit more blue in there. I just want to cool this area right off. Because if I put a nice dark, cool area there, it's just going to draw the eye naturally into that doorway anyway, because that's going to be warmer than this. So I need to balance the warm and the cool colours together. You might not think so, but it does work. It really does work. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry that really, really well now with a hairdryer, and to make sure it's dry, because I want to put a couple of glazes over this, and that's another thing I want to discuss in these lessons, is how to use glazes and things like that. And it's important that we add a lot of strings to our bow as we progress. So yeah, let's dry this off. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've dried that now. It should be dry enough. What I'm going to do now is my favourite technique as far as glazing is concerned. Glazing is a technique where we actually put a very thin coat of paint over a thicker coat of paint, and I'm using my medium mix for this. I'm just going to get some ultramarine blue, because all I want to do at the moment on this side, I just want to put a bit of blue in there. Not only am I going to be glazing that side off and covering some of the bits that I've missed, but I'm also going to be cooling back those trees a little bit, and you're going to have that little glow of blue coming through the trees there, which is important. So a very thin coat of paint. You know, you can do this on card because card is very, very super absorbent. If you're using canvas or canvas panels, then it's important that you use a medium mix, like I sell on the website www.clive5art.co.uk. So don't forget to go and check that out. Now, what I'm also going to do is get some burnt umber as well. So I've got some burnt umber there, or Van Dyke brown I should say. This is Van Dyke brown actually, not burnt umber. You can use burnt umber as well, it doesn't matter, it's the same difference. And I'm just going to go over the entire building like this, including the roof, or parts of the roof anyway. There you go, like this. In fact, I'm going to go over the old building because I just want to put that tinge of brown down, and it'll smooth off the building. It just adds a little extra bit of dimension to my painting. I quite like my glazing techniques on paintings like this. What I'm going to do is get a little bit of burnt umber, and let's just get a little bit of burnt umber. There we go. I need to put some burnt umber in there, like that. Got a bit too much moisture on my brush, but it doesn't matter. While I'm at it, just put a bit of burnt umber down and around, like that. Let's get a bit more blue just in there. Don't worry if there's a little bit of burnt umber on the brush, it doesn't matter. Just get that into blue in there, like that. And then what we're going to do is dry that off again. Let the rest dry naturally, as they say. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start working on my trees. Now this is another long type of process. Again, all I need to do is lighten up my paint like this. So I've just added a bit of white, I'm just adding a little bit of yellow to it, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of black. Let's just get that mid green that I'm looking for. Okay, that'll do. Now the process is quite long, and as you know, you can use a foliage brush that I supply on the website. It's one of these little things, and you could actually just tap in like that. But what I'm going to do today, because this is a showcase painting, I'm just going to put little tiny little dots just by hand like this. Just to bring this one to life a touch. There they are. And again, we're in for a nice long run. So I'm just going to speed that up a bit. Okay, so what I've got to do now is I just want to lighten up the building a little bit. So I'm going to get some of this yellow ochre and yellow. I mixed there a little bit of burnt umber. I mixed some white, didn't I, with that. So I'm going to sort of lighten that up a touch. What I want to do now is just very, very, very dry painted brush. I just want to, it's what they call dry brushing over the surface of the painting. So you've got a very dry brush, in fact. It's a scrubbing technique then. So you want to put the paint on very, very lightly like that, and then just scrub it down. Don't worry about going over your windows, but you want to keep the shadow into this building as well, because this building over there is quite, it's hit the shadow a little bit. It's a bit brighter up on the top edge there, so we need to lighten that up a touch. There you go. And what we want to do now is lighten this up a little bit more. So a little bit more paint this time. Trying to find that edge there, but not too sharp. There we are. We need to brighten this side up a bit now, because the light is coming this way. So if you can see there, a shadow there, there's light coming in here. There's light coming across the tops of the church roof. So what I'm trying to do is just lighten up a little bit there, leaving a little bit of shadow in place, just getting the light in place there like that. There's a little bit of light just underneath there. So what I'm going to do is get my brush. I'm just going to put these little marks, indications of that little run of bricks. Just down on edge there like that. Bringing in the light. Take your time. All those steady paintings we've done, I was going to set you up for this. Trying to keep your perspective in place. Trying to keep your lines as sharp as possible. Thinking of the tones and the values of your paints. Don't forget all them study paintings we've been doing on my free YouTube channel. Will set you up. And this is why I decided to do some showcase paintings, is because these are the type of paintings that I really enjoy and I take my time on. And I do really enjoy painting paintings like this. And all these little tiny little bits that we have to pick up really do work. So it's a subtle use of colours and tones and things and lights and darks that we just need to incorporate in. Finding out where that light is going to hit things. Just like that. Using a light to your advantage. Don't forget, we got all these wonderful glazes that we can add to this if we just want to pick up a few bits and pieces. What you'll find is that I don't talk much when I paint like this, but this is why I think I'm going to narrate a few bits and pieces. Little tiny little dot marks like this, just to possibly emphasize a few bricks and things. You don't need to paint them all in, just here and there and there and here, just like this, just to possibly indicate bricks and things. That's what we're looking for. What we're going to do is put a glaze over this again in a minute. Just continue to build. I'll drop a few little marks in like this, just to, as I said, just to emphasize maybe there's bricks. You don't have to paint them all in. You don't have to paint them all in. This is quite a dark looking church anyway, so put a bit of warmth into the side of this tower or belfry, whatever you want to call it. It's looking pretty good. It's coming. This is going to be a long painting, and I was expecting it to be a long painting, which is pretty good. So I'm going to get some burnt umber and some of my medium mix. I just want to see if that's okay. Because I want to darken off. I want to put a nice layer of that now, just onto the top of my roof of the church. And again, very, very thin wash of colour. That church roof like that. Maybe there's a little shadow on that side there. So all I did was just wet my brush a little bit with a little bit of black. So it's a very, very, very thin amount of paint on my brush, just to get a little bit of shadow under there. A little, just smallest amount of black then. To get a bit of shadow in there. I'm just dry brushing that in. Darken that edge in a little bit. It's amazing what you can do with washes of colour. It really is. versatility of acrylics is always amazed me. They really have. Just enjoy and have fun. Okay, so on this part, the showcase paint that I'm doing today, I'm just gonna put in a tree, maybe coming in there, coming up there, and he comes up like that. Let's just get a little bit of a light on that tree now. There you go. Can just about see him. Maybe we just need to put a little bit of black in there, just to make it look as if it's maybe just a little bit of shadow or something, just so you can see there's a tree there like that. Let's thin this right down. What we want to do now is just bring in a few branches, maybe a few twigs in the background. Few lines in there like that, just to make it look as if there's branches and things, twigs sticking out of the tops of the trees, and we can put a few more bits and pieces in there in a second. Get a little bit of black on the tip of my brush and Doesn't really matter. There we go. Back into our long brush now, and let's mix some more yellow. Bit of white. Bit of ultramarine blue. Let me just change my brush, because we need to mix a bit of paint. I'm just going to mix the paint with a brush. Shouldn't do that really, but it doesn't really matter really, as long as you get the job done. That's all that counts. We want a nice spring looking green. There we are. It's a mixture of all those colours now. Nice spring green. Let's just try that. Just on the tip of this long handled brush. This is a number 4 long handled. Maybe want a bit more white onto that one. Maybe want to brighten it up a bit more. Bit more yellow. Greens tend to dry 2 shades darker when with acrylics, so be careful. It's just a matter now of picking out individual areas with your brush to make the trees look a little bit more realistic. Don't go killing all the work you've done. Think about shape and form and bushes and things. Also, you need to think about where the light is going to fall as well. Let me just move out of my way. I don't want to get my big head in shot. So leaving a little bit of that darker down there and just bring in a few brighter spots. Like this. When you're spending time on a painting like this, which is not something I normally do on YouTube because I've never got the time, I've always set up on time constraints, but the good thing is when I'm doing showcase paintings, which I'm going to be doing at least once a month now, it allows me to bring in a lot more detail, and as the lesson mentions, it's a showcase painting, so I'm able to actually paint in a way that I would normally paint, but not necessarily for YouTube. And it's a pleasure for me to bring my joy and my enjoyment of paint into the world of YouTube now. I've concentrated a lot on beginners and things, and because I think it's important that we encourage people to paint more. A lot of people just can't afford lessons. It will teach you new skills, and the more skills you've got, the better it is. The more advanced you become, the more money you could possibly make if you were selling your own artwork. So we got those trees coming on quite nicely there. I want to bring in a few more over to this far side now. Bearing in mind that there's a lot more shadow over there, so I'm using a slightly darker tone of paint in places, but I am trying to pick up a few lighter areas as well. Like that. And it's just a matter of putting these little marks where you think they'll go. That's where they live. Once you put them down, live with the decision. Once you put them down, you live with that decision, because it must have been the right choice. Has to be the right choice, because we can lighten up a few little areas here and there, or later on if we need to we can always put a few little brighter spots. Down here and there if we need to. There you go. It's looking quite nice. And I'm just looking at light. Don't need to have to paint. You don't have to paint every blade of grass. It's a misconception. You just need to get it to look like a painting. That's all we're looking for, really. Is just maybe just an indication of a painting. What I really like to do now is if I can wash that brush out and just get a little bit of blue on my brush, and I really want to blue down I want to put a bit of blue there. Bit of ultramarine blue just on that building like that. Just want to cool that off. Maybe a bit there as well. Maybe a bit in there. What I'm going to do is put a bit of blue. What I'm going to do is put a bit of blue on this roof, I think. Blue and green go really well, and if we can just cool off that roof. A blue shadow. There you go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let that sit, and I might give it 24 hours now to really dry before I start doing a few more things to like gravestones and detail, because I need to put a fair little bit of detail in there just to lift it just out of those trees a little bit. But as I said, it is a church, so that's what I'm looking to do. Is I don't want it too realistic. I want it more painterly than realistic. So I'm gonna give it a little break now. I think got myself a nice cup of tea, and I'll give it an hour or two. I'll come back in, and if I decide I might give it 24 hours, because sometimes these type of paintings I like to let sit, and I give my head a rest, and then I can rework it again then. So that's the idea anyway. So I hope you're enjoying this showcase painting. Okay, so it's actually been a couple of hours before since I come in here last, and it's dried off really well now. I'm quite happy with it. So what I've decided to do now is I'm just going to increase the light a little bit on the building itself, on the church, and then I'm going to put in some quick gravestones. I don't want to put a lot in, because looking at my reference photograph there's quite a lot and it's all chunky bunky. So I thought this would be when the church, let's just say about, I don't know, just after it's built or something like that, with very little gravestones, or there's another graveyard somewhere and they haven't put any gravestones in the front of the church. So let's emphasize the church is what I'm trying to say, and let's try and make it look interesting, but not to put a lot of gravestones in there and take the eye away from the actual church itself. So okay, so first of all I'm just going to pick up a detail brush. There we go. I need a, where's my water, where's my medium mix, there we are, there we go. I'll clean my palette actually, that's what I did as well. I'll clean my palette down because it was getting a little bit everywhere. So I'm going to get some raw sienna, a little bit of burnt umber. I'm just going to increase a couple of bricks here and there on this building. Just touching one or two here and there, just to, like, as if they've been weathered a little bit and just a little bit brighter, just to lift this up a touch. What I want to do is try and bring in some more on the front of this, just to lighten up the front a bit. You can see I'm just touching I'm not actually painting bricks, I'm just touching with a bit of paint, just like that. I want to lighten that edge just a little bit there. There you go. And we need a bit more. Down there like that. The church it can be quite a dark looking building, so just a little bit of highlight, just here and there and there and here and everywhere. And gravestones again tend to be a little bit they're either black, the modern ones that can be black or grey. These would be stone, because they're quite old ones, not marble so much. So we could put just a gravestone like that. Just that type of mark like that. Just add a little bit more yellow to it. Give it a little bit of thought. We don't want to go too mad. There's a gravestone there maybe. And we could put a gravestone that's that there. Just put a little bit of shadow just behind that gravestone, just to make it stand out a bit. Gravestones normally face to sunrises in the east, so gravestones normally face to the east because of that's when the soul rises up to heaven. I think that's what it is. Where the altar is in the church normally faces towards the north. It used to be in the older ones. It was always faced north, but a lot of these churches are pointing in different ways. But I know our local church altar faces north, and all the headstones are facing east. So that's the rising sun. So that's the thought behind that one. So I'm just gonna play with this colour now. I'm going to add a bit of black to it. I just want to darken this colour up. I'm trying to make a grey stone type of colour because I want to put another one maybe there. You could just see the edge of it. So there's no point doing them face on because it's going to take too much work. So if we presume that direction, that way, is east, then we can play around with these gravestones, and it's going to make life easier for us. Again, let's just put a little bit of shadow. Just there like that. You can play around with that in a second. You can see what I mean now. And I'll put some brambles and things over that. What we could do with this one is bring something in front of that, like that. Just a raise of grass, maybe it's a little bit higher there. So let's get another gravestone in, maybe here, which is going to be slightly bigger. Taking your time. Don't know if it's the edge and just a little bit of the front showing. Let's just get a little bit of shadow colour behind that again now. Let's make one slightly different colour. Let's make this one a little bit blacker. I want this one a little bit darker. We're going to put one in just about there, like that. And we get a bit of highlight on this one now with just a little bit of that lighter colour that we picked up that we were doing these gravestones with. Just put a little bit of highlight on. Like that. So we've got a couple of gravestones in place now. We've got our light source coming in. And there's always a few gravestones right by the church itself. You can just about see these because they're not far off the same colour as the church itself, but we know they're there. Just getting a little bit of highlight just on the front of that. There we go. You can see that church, that gravestone's there. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my brush down and I get my fan brush, and I want to mix some green, so I'm going to get some yellow and a smallest amount of black to this. I don't want to go in too bright, but I'm just going to get my fan brush and I'm just going to tap in a little bit of green. Like as if there's a bit of grass and the light is shining through. Like that. So tightening up the area here, putting a lot more yellow in there, but when you come over here, just a touch, like as if it's a few little individual blades just maybe just glinting in the sun there, like that. I'm going to get a little bit of moisture on my brush, get a bit more yellow, a bit more black. Just changing that colour a touch. Increasing the yellow. I'm going to just touch a white to it. Let's put a bit of raw sienna with it just to warm that up a touch. As we come in forward, there's a little bit more strength to the grass there. It's a little bit long. The gardener hasn't come along and mowed this area for quite a few weeks, so little bits of clumps of grass and things, and the light is just shining through and God is looking down upon the graveyard. There we go. We can get our brush, our detail brush now, making a bit more paint. Let's just put a few little lighter spots. Just in this tree. Let's lighten that up a bit more. Back into our fan brush maybe. And let's just put a few leaves on this tree. Just bringing a little bit of sunlight in. Now I'm thinking of maybe let's get a slightly bigger brush and let's get another. I want to get another gravestone in here. I want to put another gravestone maybe maybe there. This one's on a slight angle because it's actually collapsed. In fact, I think we got that shadow slightly wrong there, so we need to put that shadow in more of an angle like that. There you go, that'll do. Again, I'm going to pick up this brush, get some grass in. Quite happy with that so far. What we need to do now is just get some pure yellow and maybe put a few little flowers in, bit of blue. And what works really well on a painting is some red, so we need to get some red. As I haven't put any red on the palette, so I'm just going to get a little bit of red out of one of my pots. There we go. Just going to get a little bit of red, like this. Just so we could put a few little bits of red in. That'll catch the eye as well. There you go. Just a few flowers on the graveside. There we are. And we could put a little bit more light, maybe just coming in there. Let's just change this a little bit now. Very, very subtly. We can get some black, because I know there's a gate in here. Just trying to kill that black off a little bit now. So we let that dry, and then we'll put a little coat of paint over that, and you'll see exactly what I'm trying to do then. There you go. Just increase that shadow there. What I'm going to do now is just dry that black off with a hairdryer. And just get a little washer brush, just get a little paint. And just lightly go over that. And just knock that sharpness of that black back. There we go. Maybe we can put a little bit of light wash of colour just over that. And all that remains us to do then is to sign this paint in. I need a script lining brush for that. We need to sign the paint in. And what I'm going to do then is I've made a frame, which is not a real frame. It's just for me to frame my paint in. I'm going to put that on there then, just to see what it looks like in a frame. There you go. That's what it would look like in a frame. It looks really nice. That's St Mary's Church down in St Hilliard in South Wales, just outside Pencoed. So you can play around with the movement of that as if you want to. And I hope you've enjoyed that lesson. What I'm going to do now is put a nice coat of varnish over that when it's dry, and it's going to look really nice. So thank you very much for joining me on this lesson, and look forward to doing another one for you. So until in the meantime, don't forget to click the subscription button and the notification bell, and I will see you next time. Bye.